Gone are the days when you clock out of work at 5, have a reasonable commute home, and could not and would not be reachable to the office until 9 the next morning. And gone are the days where our home was a refuge, a sanctuary from the outside world. Instead, morning, noon, and night, we have a demanding little communicator that we carry around in our pockets, who sounds off in a high, commanding voice. And when we go to bed, that little communicator is there to rouse us from our sleep, whether unexpectedly when someone forgets the time, or intentionally because we have asked it to. Contact is instantaneous and continuous, and we expect it to be. And if we send a message, we count the minutes until we can get a response. And if we receive a message, we know the sender is doing the same. And the anxiety grows. What would your life look like if you learned the art of saying no? And if you must or truly want to say yes, what would your life feel like if you learned how to use your energy to make the most of it and create win-win outcomes? Hi, my name is Mozella Perry-Ademi-Louie, and each week I show you who you can be and what you need to do to have it all. Now, I know that this week's Mountain newsletter is entitled The Art of Saying No, and I imagine that many of you may expect it to focus on the specific demands made of us and our time, and we'll talk about them too. But first, let's talk about an earlier and more important no. I want to talk to you about saying no to urgency culture and the anxiety that comes with it. We have been discussing the rat race for decades, so what is so different about this? Well, for your own reasons, you chose the high-pressure job, knew it would be part of the rat race, and expected the overtime. Urgency culture, on the other hand, has become the standard for modern living, seemingly regardless of your lifestyle choices. And it is an epidemic we need to excuse ourselves from if we are to have what we want, make the difference we came here to make, and truly love the life we live. Psychology Today wrote, if we are always in a state of movement, our minds respond by overthinking and our bodies by overproducing cortisol, the naturally occurring stress hormone. This recipe leads to persistent anxiety, stress, overwhelm, and worry. Urgency culture can mean anything from unhealthy relationships with our jobs to pushing ourselves despite feeling exhausted, to overscheduling our lives and not allowing ourselves to say no. When we fixate on being productive, we unwittingly push ourselves beyond our limits and throw our nervous system into a state of overdrive. In a culture of urgency, rest and relaxation are often misguidedly viewed as idleness or laziness. Now, National Geographic wrote, at work, this could involve handling frequent last-minute requests, unrealistic deadlines or workload, and the expectation to be reachable even after hours. In personal life, manifestations of urgent culture include overextending in relationships, frequently checking social media updates out of fear of missing out, and responding immediately to calls and texts, even when it's inconvenient. Being part of the always-on culture often necessitates multitasking. However, research shows that the human brain lacks the neurocognitive architecture to perform 2 or more tasks simultaneously. So every time we multitask, it actually slows the brain down and may reduce productivity by up to 40%. It also impedes reflective thinking. When the brain is overwhelmed by the constant need to process information and make decisions quickly, it often resorts to shallow thinking. This compromises your ability to engage in deep work, which requires only bouts of distraction-free concentration. A false sense of urgency tricks the body into reacting as if it's in a threatening situation, activating the fight or flight response. An overactive fight or flight response contributes to hypertension, sleep deprivation, high cholesterol, and inflammatory disorders. The constant rush and the unspoken expectations to always be on professionally and personally can create a state of heightened alertness. This hypervigilance significantly increases stress and anxiety. Anxiety in turn feeds into the urgency, creating a cycle where each reinforces the other. Meanwhile, constant overstimulation, a significant contributor to urgency culture, desensitizes your dopamine system. In short, the more overstimulated you are, the less joy you can feel. Challenging the imaginary rules of urgency culture can help us to live healthier, less stressful lives. Now, we have tons of scientific research to back up the idea that rest, leisure, and self-care are actually vital to our health. Without them, we simply run ourselves into the ground, and the results, as you know, can be catastrophic. Burnout is real, and we are not mindful of our daily functioning. We can quickly become burned out, which can have severe consequences for our minds and bodies. These resources do show that there is a path forward. There are ways out. They talk to some of the practices that have been gaining increasing traction over the last decade or so. Things that have moved from niche and into the mainstream, thankfully. To escape the urgency trap, here is a summary of some of their suggestions. Pausing for a few moments before leaping into action every time something comes up. It allows you to step back and assess whether this demand for your attention aligns with your priorities. Setting clear boundaries and expectations in personal and professional relationships can also help plan, prioritize, and problem solve without inducing false urgency. The best thing you can do to cope with urgency is to regularly engage in activities that remind you there is no rush. The 4 practices of control to calm and recenter whenever you feel rushed, overwhelmed, or overstimulated are intentional breathing, listening, movement, and touch. Practicing mindfulness to increase awareness, emotional regulation, and stress tolerance. Now, the HeartMath Institute, of which I'm a certified trainer, have been looking at some of these concepts since 1991 and have been experimenting, documenting, and proving their theories and methodology. As a result of this urgency culture, they describe our response to it as, and they meaning HeartMath, as rushed energy. Impatience is an obvious tendency in the accelerated pace of today's world. The speed up of our inner rhythms compels us to push our way through tasks, take shortcuts, interrupt, and react to others. And they offer a range of science-backed tools to help us turn it around. For upgraded members, in the next video, I'll give you some specific techniques to regain control of your life by using the Just Say No technique in 2 specific ways. 1, to what does not serve you, and then secondly, to effectively manage your energy for the times when you know a task must be accomplished, whether you like it or not. Then the art of saying no is to the negative emotions you may normally feel in the times when you have little to no choice about what must be done within a specific time frame.